Okay, I've started streaming. What a palaver! My words.
It's not coming through yet.
It will come through in 2 seconds.
I can't. I'm going to switch this off then, shall I?
Hello, sorry everyone. Major headache. Not a headache. I haven't got a headache, but what is going on? Blimey. I know I'm not the best at technology. I've got too many grey hairs to actually do it. I paid with my telephone today. There's no sound. Why is there no sound? Why is there never any sound? Is there any sound now? Oh my word, don't do this to me again. Hello? Hello? Is there any sound coming through now? Oh my giddy up. Is that yes, there is sound. You wouldn't believe it, but okay, all is good. Thank you, Tanya. Right, now it starts for real now, okay? What a palaver. All of you, Coral, Francesca, lovely to see you. Sorry about all the wait and the palaver. I know there was loads of people waiting, so I really do apologise about all of that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pain in the backside. Pain in the backside, no doubt about it. So how you all doing? I'm now completely blown away from what what we were supposed to be doing. So it's all up in the air at the moment. So yeah, we were going to talk about what it means to be Scorpio. Hello, Brenda. Is that Brenda? Yes, we can hear you. Excellent, great. Right, thanks, Francesca. Right, yeah. So what's it like to be Scorpio? You could probably obviously tell me a lot better than me. I've known a lot of Scorpios in my life, and I still have a lot of Scorpios around me in my life. And I was going to just give you an idea of what I've understood from my side, the sort of what sort of thing that comes through the Astroflower. Sort of, does it play with any sort of traits and stuff like that that are particular to Scorpio? And I think it's important to start when we start anything. We have written books on this, and we're supposed to be getting them out, but don't tell me off for it. I haven't got it out as yet, but it is there. I was investigating the history of Scorpio, and before we only had, when we had sort of like 10 months. So December was the 10th month, November was the 9th month, October was the 8th month, September was the 7th month, and etc., etc. And then we had Augustus Caesar and Julius Caesar, which was August and July, that was put into the calendar. And it sort of moved up to sort of 12 signs at that point in, Western astrology, as far as I could tell. And thing is, Scorpio and the two signs that were created were Scorpio and sort of Libra. And they were created out of Sagittarius and Virgo. This is the story as far as I can know from my side. Hi, Sandrine Potter. How you doing? Is it Sandrine Potter's? Sublime Potter? Bad eyes, small text, can't see much. So yeah, sorry about that. Hello to everyone. So it was made out of Sagittarius and Virgo, and there's two things that actually Libra and Scorpio share together, because Libra has the balance of justice, as it were, but Scorpio in the Middle East, in the Middle East, where a lot of these things come from. The Scorpio used to be what people used to call the weighing machines at the markets. You used to hold it up, and it used to have sort of like two pinchers that hold the bowls, and it can do the weighing. So this is the creation of sort of Scorpio out of that. You know, before Sagittarius used to have a scorpion's tail, and they might well have stings in their tails coming from that sort of side. So that's where the Scorpio aspect sort of comes from. I think you've been, you know, Scorpios. When you think about a scorpion, obviously, because that's what it is, Scorpio. It's not the sort of animal or the insect or thing that you kind of go, you know, the first thing I want to do is cuddle up to that, you know. And I think Scorpios have had a bad rap over life for a very long time. But it is an incredibly particular sign. I would say it likes I wouldn't say the occult as such, but it's really into sort of like magic and understanding of the sort of energies and so forth and all of those sort of things. But it's, you know, the whole Scorpio sort of thing, it was given a bad rap as a sort of like just on the basis of the animal that was being used for it. And you know, I think we probably need to readdress that whole sort of situation, because Scorpios, for me, and you tell me if I'm wrong, you know what I mean. As I say, I'm only observing Scorpios from around me. I'm not an astrologer, okay? I have done astrology when I had my healing center. The astrologer that used to work at the healing center, you know, I learned a lot of astrology with that person. Absolutely amazing. So I know I've got the basics, real basics, but I wouldn't call myself an astrologer. So I developed a system called the Astroflower. So it helped me to understand the fundamentals of the people that I was seeing when I was doing the healing thing. You know, Scorpio as a sign, and when we looked into the Astroflower, and I started looking at how it sort of combined with other signs that are around, it was quite obvious to see some of the traits of sort of Scorpio within it. So should we, you know, you must have seen if you've been watching Scorpio, you would have seen it at some point. Let me just pull my map round the other way. So this is sort of Scorpio. What does, you know, what's the sort of, if you could, because every sign has its good and bad. There's no doubt about it. You know, I'm a Capricorn, and obviously we don't have any bad sides at all. You know, that's probably one of the bad sides we have. But also at the same time, we can be incredibly dark. You know, have really sort of dark days, Capricorn, and so you know there is that aspect of it all. So there is the yin and yang, and I think it's possible to turn anything into something that is productive and creative if you have the desire in order to do so. So, you know, when we're looking at the Astroflower, where we can see here in front of us here, one of the primary things, let me just bring up the flower so I can actually see it as well on a bigger sort of scale on my side. It's I just saw some message coming through. I mean, you know, how are you doing? I'm doing fine, thank you very much. That's from Somatic. Oh my word, I've got to stop looking at the messages. Right, now, get back to the Astroflower. If you look on your Astroflower, so this side here, you've got nothing but cardinals that come into you. So you've got the cardinal that comes in from Capricorn, and then you have the cardinal also that comes in from Libra on that side there. So this is on the relationship side of life, or of what you could say as well, the spiritual side of life. It's not necessarily just sort of, you know, sort of love and relationships and so forth. It is also about sort of spiritual being and sort of exploring the idea of a spirit. Now, as I said, you've got lots of cardinal energies. And I suppose it'd be good to sort of like, get into the idea of fixed energies, because you're a fixed sign, and fixed signs are very particular. Let me just show you on the Astroflower, the whole of the Astroflower with all of the signs together. That's probably a good thing to start on. Let me just bring it up. There we go. I just got that there. So there's lots going on here. Obviously, you've got Scorpio, which is up in this section here. Okay, and what you have is you have sort of Scorpio going on this section here. Let me make sure I can see it from my side. Then you've got Scorpio, then you've got sort of Sagittarius, and then you've got Capricorn, and then you've got the sign of Aquarius, which is this sign here. And one thing is with Aquarius is you've got air at the top and water at the bottom. But if you go 90 degrees, you end up at Scorpio. And Scorpio is that you've got water at the top and air at the bottom. And it's almost reflecting, but on a right angle. And you get the same thing with Taurus and Leo. And the other thing about sort of fixed signs as well is you get four pure signs, which has pure energies, like pure elements, Virgo, Libra, Pisces and Aries. And then you have four full signs, which is Capricorn, Cancer, Gemini and Sagittarius. But all the fixed signs are really fixed into their elements in a really, they take it seriously. Let's put it that way. That's what it seems to be. So, not only is, Scorpio a fixed sign, but it has this sort of like right angle degree to Aquarius, where you've got this exchange of water and air within you. And on your relationship or your spiritual side of life, and it does play in, especially with that there, the mental application of a spiritual life in the physical world has got real direction from within you. It seems to be, to me, looking at the Astroflower when we created it some years ago now, looking at the spiritual path, it's like you've got this eternal compass that is within you that is pointing you into a direction which tends to be orientated towards human rights, fairness, and that's that whole sort of, Scorpio sort of balancing thing that I was talking about at the very beginning. You get that within you, and it's a driving force that goes through you about getting things right, doing things correctly, being honourable about it within your spiritual path. There is a real you have a very good consciousness in concerns with karmic effects. That's what it seems to be. And when you look at traits of Scorpio, then you tend to get Scorpios that they say is very loyal, dependable, and that sort of thing, which is totally true. But it comes from that sort of directional energy, and it comes out of, let me just bring that back up there so I can see that again myself. You've got that cardinal air and cardinal water, and that is your cardinal energy of your good self, because you have that water at the top and your air at the bottom. So you have this real sort of direction from within you. Now, that plays into the physical side of life, okay? I'm trying to see in how I can say this sort of delicately, because if that direction is, there's two or three things I want to talk about on that sort of thing. Now, first things first, if that direction is betrayed, that's when we see the stinger of the scorpion. And incredibly precise with your stingers. Scorpios, and you probably well know that, you know. And sometimes you'll do things and it's almost like you'll sacrifice yourself in order to sort of be right, sort of thing. And that's incredibly honourable and etc. But it can cause you problems in life. Um, but then again, you know, if it's karmically correct, why would you shy away from doing something that's totally honourable? The thing is with that is with this fixed sort of water and fixed sort of air at your base, there is a particular way in which the criteria for interaction with the world around you is pretty much set within you. You know, and as I say, this side here, it's very sort of directional. So and it gives you that sort of like clear understanding about what you want out of life. And if that's not what's on offer, then I wouldn't expect you to be hanging around a lot of time. That sort of thing. But when you're dealing with the outside world, because your direction can sometimes be, really, it's like with a lot with water signs, right? Okay. A lot of their skeletons are on the outside, like a shell. And there's a lot of protection going on, like Cancer and even like Pisces because of the scales. And there is a lot of sort of protection of this inner direction. And sometimes if there's a lot of pressure from the outside world, Scorpios can sometimes sort of retract from the outside world because, I don't know if you've been out recently. I have, and it's a bit crazy out there, It's certainly not the 1970s that we all grew up in, or I grew up in anyway. And this is where Scorpio doesn't like to gamble in life. They're not really gamblers as such, because there's that particular direction for their spiritual path, and there's a clear understanding for them, for Scorpios, how you wish to engage in life, and how you wish this to sort of like this direction to sort of come out in life through emotionally, because you're engaged emotionally. When you're with someone, you're really with someone, and if you're not, if you're elsewhere, you're elsewhere, sort of thing. But because could be a lot of pressure from the outside world, Scorpios can sometimes just like satisfy themselves with their inner direction, and follow their own inner path and not necessarily involve the outside world with that path. That can be good and that can have drawbacks as well, especially when dealing with other people and so forth. And we're going to be looking into next week. I'm going to try and do another live next week. I must be a sucker for punishment. We all must be, I guess. Doing a live next week about relationships, and how it plays in with other signs. We're going to be going into sort of obviously partner, but also relationships such as the people you work with, your boss or something like that. The family connections, like parents and children, sisters and brothers, aunties and uncles, how that sort of can play in with the elements of the Astroflower. So we're going to be going into that next week there. But it's, that whole sort of connection that you can have with the outside world can sometimes be a little bit sort of, you've got that idea of where you're going, and it really does depends on who is around you, will depend on how much time and effort you go into it. Now, obviously, the world around, and this is where we come to the bad rap. We're going to get onto the financial side in a minute, by the way. this is where Scorpio can sometimes get a bad rap, because the world is built upon. There's a lot of manipulation within the world. Obviously, there's always been manipulation throughout history of the human race. But because there is going into that, you you can play life like chess sometimes, Scorpio, and you can sometimes get dragged into this, and it can tarnish you with a brush that probably you don't deserve, and it's being involved in the outside world with some people that may not necessarily have your best interests at heart. And they can, some people can play games and so forth, and you're very good at playing them. And because you've got this direction and it goes for justice, you've got this bee in your bonnet for things to be true and honest and stuff like that. And when people are not being true and honest, that's when you'll sort of shut down, as it were, and sort of kind of go, okay, well, we'll play, but Scorpios usually are going to be the winning outcome, I think, the majority of the time. So you get this sort of like directional sort of thing within the spiritual path, and that could be with relationships and so forth. And it depends totally on the partner you're with and the other sign of the other person and everything like that. Depending on how more relaxed you are, the more that you can open up, and the more you open up, Scorpios are absolutely brilliant. They're because they've got that direction as well. They've got all that sort of fun and happy-go-lucky sort of aspect to them. When they're very sociable when they want to be. If they don't want to be, they're not going to be. But yeah, tend to be very sociable and that sort of thing. There's a lot of stimulation, mental stimulation within the socializing. It's got to be interesting in a way. There is that drive on that side for your good selves within sort of like your spiritual sort of side. Has anybody got any sort of traits that you think about that we haven't really talked about? Is there any ideas that the sort of things on the spiritual sort of side or on the relationship side? Is there anybody out there who sort of like got ideas, kind of go, no, Scorpios are like this or Scorpios are like that? I'm only, as I said, I'm expressing what comes out from the multitudes of people I've met through my healings and stuff like that, and what we've developed over a series of years on the Astroflower. And obviously I read into a little bit about what's going, what other people say and stuff like that, but it's all sort of seems to sort of stem true and stuff like that. Have you got any questions on that side before we move on to onto the other side? If there's anybody got any sort of questions about it all. One thing I will sort of say here, and this is where, I don't think you get a good rap, is where you've only got this bit of fire here that comes into here, and it's mutable. And this is on your sort of like, this is where you kind of sort of like, if you're passionate about something, you're going to be in it. You'll have skin in the game, as they say. You'll be up for it. You'll be a really, really applied. If you're not passionate about it, that's when it's going to falter onto that air, and it becomes a bit more of a mental thing rather than a passionate sort of thing. So that's how it plays out in your everyday life, as it were, in that sort of section there. I feel it's okay. Do you S? Is that S? Blimey. Do you feel it very deeply? Is that you talking about? I've had a near-death experience. If you want to talk about that, you can do. But I wouldn't provoke it. I wouldn't provoke it if I was you at all. You know, I'd be very wary of that. Um, I'm not sure what you mean by that sort of like comment there, but you know, if you're thinking, got negative thoughts and stuff like that, man, talk to the people here at the Astroflower. Tell us about it, man. It's all right. It's okay. We're all in this boat together, man. It's not easy for anyone, and you know, it's life should be. Oh, do Scorpios feel death very deeply? I actually think Scorpios feel a great deal, but whether they show that feeling is another matter. And I think that's a very, very particular. I would say I would be more inclined, say, like out of the water signs. I would say Pisces feels that really strongly. Death and rebirth. They feel that sort of thing. Really quite. You know. Yeah, I'm not sure it's the biggest thing on your list because there's a lot of justice within you. So it's the world can be just, and even in the beginning as in the end and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, you know, do they feel deeply? I think it's on very much on a personal sort of level. Another question here is do Scorpios deal with karma more than other signs? We've got to define karma really. When I'm doing healing, right? Let me just change the screen here for a second, because you don't. Let me. When I'm doing healing, you can get a lot of things. Let me just drop the camera down a little bit. There you go. You know, I tend to look at people's karma, and you can look at it as an energetic block. And karma for me is a process that I put something out into the world, it goes through the world, and as it goes through the world and then gradually comes back to me, I learn a lesson of life each time I do that. And I think that's what karma does. Karma helps us to learn things. And it can be negative as it could be positive. And we have a karmic path. So when, as far as I understand, you know, when we're choosing to live a life, we choose a vibration. We don't choose Mr. and Mrs. Jones, who are multimillionaires, who live on a beach house somewhere in some really nice place. You know what I mean? We don't choose that. We choose to understand the lifestyle, as far as I can tell. And this is what then creates that karmic block that we gradually fill up, like the block of within the block of poo in Taoism, and we fill up this block with our understandings. So I think everybody's dealing with karma, regardless of the signs. It's how you go about learning. And I actually did a video on this this week about learning life lessons, and it wasn't necessarily about what life lessons to learn. It was more a case of how do we learn these life lessons, and it was the way we approach learning life. You know, so it's I think it can be incredibly difficult. It depends on what you're trying to understand within your life, in regards to how you're going to deal with karma. And it's the whole idea of I do something nice to you, someone does something nice to me. I do something nasty to you, someone does something nasty to me. The thing is, once you get really sort of like get up close and personal to consciousness, that sort of breaks down a little bit, and you do things without any return. And so it's sometimes, people can be doing you wrong, but that's part of their learning curve. And it's it's not that I don't call them out or anything, but I don't necessarily get into the idea of sort of, you've done me wrong, therefore I'm going to do you wrong and stuff like that. And so it's it's a personal learning curve for that. It depends on what you're trying to achieve in understanding within this life. Will depend upon how you engage with that karma. So yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think karma is a very personal thing, and I think it transcends all signs, regardless of signs. And I think it's down to a personal sort of like engagement in life. Basically, the first things first is like, don't worry about making mistakes, and that is one of the problems for Scorpio. You know, that inner direction that you have on your spiritual path is so directional that is within you. You don't want to get it wrong, and sometimes because you don't want to get it wrong, it's like kind of going, in that case, I'm not going to do it. And not doing it is a lot worse. I personally think. I think life is for living, and and it should be fun. Really, I'm convinced of it. But it's more of a case here. So when you do something, you more chances than not, the first time you do something, you're going to get it slightly wrong, or if not wrong totally. And that's the start of the learning curve. And you can't be, I wouldn't suggest that that's going to be karmically bad karma for you, because karma doesn't work like that. It's not like I don't see it as like a punishment thing. I see it more as an encouraging thing, sort of kind of going, yes, and what else can you understand and explore? Okay, so you got that wrong, so how can you do it differently? I look at it like that. It's a really nice friend, really, and that's what so it should be like. So you should never worry about getting it wrong. You should just worry about not participating, I guess. So it really does depend on the thing that you are engaged in on a personal level. And I was saying onto one other sign today. I forgot what sign it was. I think it was Aquarius, actually, which is quite nice because that's that whole right angle to you. It's like more often than not, when there's a difficult situation with you and another person, the problem is the situation. 9 times out of 10, it's not the person who's in front of you, because 9 times out of 10, you've known that person already. You'll either get on well with them or you don't get on well with them. Therefore, you sort of like stay apart. But normally you can get on well with them. So the idea is to treat the situation rather than sort of saying, oh, it's my fault or it's your fault. So you just take out words of judgment, which is I, we, and me. There's 3 of them in the English language. And we have a conversation that we use us and we, which then therefore everybody's everybody is implemented within the situation. So I seriously wouldn't worry about getting it wrong. All I would worry about with karma is that it will give you a kick up the backside if you don't get involved. And you'll kind of go, oh, that's bad karma. And I didn't do anything wrong. And no, you didn't do anything wrong, but you didn't do anything either. And that's the only time that I would be worried about karma personally, by not engaging. So, that's my own sort of like personal bent on that. And I do that within my healing notes. Let's get back to your flower. Is there any other sort of like, we could go on about spirits and stuff like that and energy and everything like that all night. But it'd be quite interesting to have a look at your sort of financial sort of side, which I play onto this side here because it's on the left side, and the left side tends to be about administration. So basically, if I'm working on if I'm doing healing on someone, and they come to me and they say, I do it in France, and French language is amazing language. Really is amazing language. I left school saying after getting 10% in my French exam, and my teacher, and I said to my teacher, I said, "Don't worry about it, Mr. Patel. I'll never need French in my life." And I ended up moving to France. Couldn't speak a word. Ended up working with shepherds up in the mountains, and I should learn French basically in bars and restaurants. So I can't really vous voyez. I can tutoyer, so which is a little bit difficult sometimes. But their language is what is called the language of birds. So basically, the word means what it means. So in French, the ni is called je, nous. And when you break that down into two words, you've got je, which means I, and nous, which means us. So, and it's like a knee. So a knee goes into, hang on a second, let me put it this way. So a knee goes into a joint like that. So there's the I and the us sort of scenario. So when someone comes to see me on the left-hand side, you get the left hand side is all to do with administration, money, that sort of thing. Sort of organization, timing, scheduling, that sort of thing, you know. And the right hand side is all to do with finances and stuff like that. So when someone comes to see me with a problem with their knee, if it's the left knee, I'm kind of going, so okay, you're having problems maybe of putting yourself into the workplace, or if you're having problems about putting yourself into doing your administration work and stuff like that. Running the administration within your life or organizing your life on a financial and administrative side and stuff like that. So I associate the left hand side with finances on this side here. So this is why I talk about that being your financial sort of side, and this side here being your sort of like spiritual side. And one thing you'll notice on this side here is the mutable energies. And me and Tanya were talking the other day, well, today actually, about different qualities, so cardinal, fixed, and mutables. And we were sort of like commenting, sort of saying, I think mutables are having a hard time of it at the moment. And if they're having a hard time of it, you're going to be having a hard time on that sort of like financial sort of side. And a hard time here is like the mutable energy goes from, it can go one way or the other. It can be fixed or it can be cardinal, and it can then be neither. And it's sometimes very difficult for sort of mutable signs and so forth. And you have this, let me just bring up the Astroflower so I can see it in front of me. You have this sort of mutable water and earth on your side, which is all about sort of on your karmic path here is working with plans, working with ideas, and how to get them into action. And so there's a certain room for maneuver, that sort of side where you've got it, and above it you've got that mutable earth that comes from the pure sign of Virgo that goes all the way through here, and it's converting that past into your future. It's converting the ideas into future, and that's why even Scorpios tend to be sort of good lawyers and that sort of thing, and it's dealing with the past and how we do it in the future. That sort of things they're very good at. Sort of organisations helping, being personal assistants and so forth, because there's a lot of organisation and playing with a lot of different angles and aspects of it all. And I think this comes out on the financial side, like that sort of. Being able to take the past and create something in the future, and very good at sort of creating sort of stuff. The one thing that you do have is that cardinal air, and this is where you expect to see a result. So it's not, you're not a sign that's going to do something, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. You're going to want it to work, and you're gonna apply yourself with really good due diligence within the financial side in order to make it work and get it working, and get the results, get direction as well. And this is where it's sort of like, being a lawyer or PA, or organizing, or even organizing a shop and so forth and stuff like that, buying in the product, stocking it and everything like that, putting it in the shop and getting it to the final use and stuff like that. There's a lot of that sort of thing that sort of goes on within the sort of financial sort of side, because you've got to adapt to the situation as you do it. And it's also could be, sort of programming, that sort of thing, and it could be also sort of working in within the well-being world and stuff like that. That's very good. Having a problem, finding the solution on this sort of side here with that mutable earth, finding a solution that works and that helps people to actually progress and give them a real sort of direction in life, because you're getting that direction within you. And it does play through from, as I said earlier on, from the relationship side. And this gives you a mental engagement in life of a direction, of a moral direction for the financial sort of side of life. And because, as I was saying earlier on, you've got that exoskeleton on you, so there's a lot of sort of protection and so forth. Um, you're going to make it work. And you're gonna want everybody to play their part in the situation, which is normal in the world, as it were. So you get this on this side here, on your financial side, you get all of this sort of mutable stuff, and it means as well at the same time that as long as there's a direction of knowing what you're going to get out of all of this, you are adaptable to an extent to a certain situation, to finances, to your job or your business or your projects or whatever. But you've got that fixed element, which is yourself, and that's the limit to it. So you're willing to adapt, but you're not going to sort of. I wouldn't, if I was you, allow yourself to be what's the word I'm looking for? Not used and abused, but it's a little bit like that. The idea of taken advantage of. That's the word I'm looking for. That's the word I'm looking for. So it's you don't want to have that within your life, because it will. I don't think you'll be very happy doing it to yourself and so forth. So there is that sort of like sort of adaptability to a limit of certain things. And as I said, as you got that direction in life, you're often going to choose the direction that is going to, create and help you to survive, or not necessarily survive, but actually get, ahead in your life. You're not going to allow, you won't allow the world to get the better of you, as it were. And that starts in very early on within the karmic path of it all, and how you place yourself in the situation. But also at the same time, within your workspace, I do believe there is a degree of sort of, there is a degree of sort of adaptability within the workspace. And I wouldn't say it's money that orientates you, as it were. Obviously everybody needs money. Well, we don't need it. We have to have it, don't we? It's forced upon us. But, if everyone stopped asking me for money, I would never ask for money anyway. I think that's how it could work. But, I live in a world of wanting things to work for everything. But, it's like, I've completely forgot what I was saying then, talking about the sort of like financial sort of side of things. You're not with that sort of like direction and sort of like being a little bit within your own sort of pathway. Sometimes it can sort of like close sort of avenues off for you, that you could actually go into. But yeah, it's a lot of sort of jobs. You know, what sort of do Scorpios have any vulnerabilities? I'd like to say no. I'd like to. Who's that coming from? I've forgotten who it's. Do Scorpios have any vulnerabilities? Yeah, I know. It's in working for money. Is that the vulnerability? Um, I always say that at the end, when everything's gone, Scorpios are going to be the ones left standing. They tend to be health-wise. They tend to be pretty fit, actually. You know, you tend to have a very good health ones, Scorpio, in my experience in regards with the healing that I do and everything like that. But do they have any? I think their vulnerabilities comes from the idea. You know the story about the scorpion and the frog and the crossing of the river. I think there's another version about a bird and stuff like that. When the scorpion goes up to the frog and sort of says, like, I want to cross the river, can you take me on your back across the river? And the frog says, no, you'll sting me and I don't want to die. And the Scorpio sort of says, look, I'm not going to sting you, I'm not going to sting you, I'm not going to sting you. And they end up going across the river, and the scorpion ends up sort of stinging the frog, and the frog's kind of going, what'd you do that for? And the scorpion sort of turns around and sort of says, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be who I am. And I think your vulnerability comes from you. It's as vulnerable as you wish to be. And if you don't want to be vulnerable, you will tend to suck it up and confront it in a way. But I think it causes pain inside. And I think that's the vulnerability, the inner feeling, the idea of judgment upon you and so forth. That can be, you can be vulnerable to that, I think. But I think Scorpios are incredibly strong as personalities, as characters, strong within them and immovable. They put up their pincers, they put up their pincers and they put up their pincers and then they stick up their stinger. You know what I mean? And they do, they got this dance sort of thing, but their vulnerability is that I think they actually put themselves down a lot as well. I think that's part of their vulnerability. I think the vulnerability as well comes from the idea that a Scorpio, the scorpion, if you look at all the other signs, is the smallest thing out of all the signs. And they're so scared of being trodden on by the outside world that they've got their stinger. And that actually, and I tell you what, all the other signs, that's whether you get a bad rap. Because all the other signs kind of go, oh, look at that stinger, I'm not getting anywhere near that. You know what I mean? So I think their vulnerability is a lot to do with, how you perceive that the world looks at you. I think that's your vulnerability. And once you get past that, Scorpio, you are unstoppable. Once you get past that, you're really unstoppable. Really unstoppable. Amazing. So, yeah, that do you, Maisie? Is it Maisie? Maze live? I can't see it. It's far too far away. My eyes are getting shot to pieces these days. Judgment of ourselves. Yeah. There's a lot of that. Hang on a second. Judgment. Self-sabotage. Yeah. That's that whole sort of story about, self-sabotage is all about, that whole idea of that frog and the scorpion. And I think that's a South American story, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Indian version has got like a bird in it, but or is it a Chinese version? Yeah, I think self-sabotage. I think you yourself are the most vulnerable sort of side of it all, and that's such a shame because I think most people are just obviously you know I think everybody here at the Astroflower is trying to make the best out of life in the way of trying to make happiness within ourselves so we can share that happiness with everybody else around us. And if we had that, you wouldn't have to feel vulnerable about it. And it's okay, as I said, it's okay to get things wrong. And I think that's a big step to get past in a lot of people, not just Scorpios, but I think Scorpios are particularly sort of tarnished, or not tarnished, tainted with that sort of vulnerability. I think the vulnerability comes from within, which is an absolute shame. Really is an absolute shame. And it could be the fact that also it's like Libras have a similar sort of thing here, and it could be the fact that you're the two new kids on the block. Capricorn and that we're old. We go back even further. I mean, we were a combination of goat and fish. We're a mixed match. So could well be that as well, and not wanting to get things wrong and do things wrong, which creates that whole sort of loyalty. And when you have Scorpions around you, and when you're really close to Scorpions, you're really close. You're very trusting and loyal and reliable and everything like that. It's absolutely amazing. When Scorpios are in fear, that's when people around you may feel like you're going to get stung by Scorpio. And that's the whole sort of vulnerability thing that sort of comes into it, and self-sabotaging and so forth. Yeah. So working for money. What was that? That was Gray's, was it? Gray, was it? Working for money. How do we work for money? I wouldn't work for money. I'd work for you. I'd work for your happiness. You can't buy time. Can't buy it. You could earn yourself, $50 a day. You're not going to have huge amounts of dollars at the end of the month. But then again, you might only be doing 3 hours in a day, and therefore you've got a lot of time for yourself to do loads of stuff. Grow your own fruit and veg. Kind of shout out the rest of the world and sort of say, no, I have nothing to do with it. So money, I wouldn't necessarily make that your primary goal if I was you. But for some people, it's incredibly important. So yeah. So that's what you get on the on the Astroflower, and it depends on the sort of. That's why I go into the sun about the vibrations that are coming in, because it's constantly changing on the Astroflower. Let me just bring up your Astroflower again. It's constantly changing. What aspects of life we got to play to, and this could be all about sort of like finding solutions and finding solutions about what we need to experience and so forth. Introspection and checking self. Do they do a lot of introspection? Yeah, but it depends as well. I think there's a degree of, because you have a very clear view of moral and spiritual positioning, that it's more demanding of of others than of oneself. It's more of a case of should I, shouldn't I? I think that's where the introspection comes in. Checking self, does that mean sort of like checking self? When you say that, I don't know who said that. Who said checking self and checking self? Is that sort of like checking yourself, so stopping yourself from doing something? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean checking yourself as in checking yourself out and kind of going, am I doing what I should be doing? Am I in the right way? There is certain triggers that are going to do that, help you to do that. And I use a lot of things, people, I say to people in my healings, some people that are trying to save the world, and I tell people to stop saving the world, stop trying to save the world. And me and Tanya were talking about the idea of mindfulness. The last thing you want is you want your mind full. That's the last thing you want. It should be mindlessness. Um, but don't try and save the world, because you as an individual, you can't save the world. I can't save the world, but we can, and that's what binds us together as a human, as a species, as a planet, and every species that is on it. We all need each other, regardless. Plant, animal, mineral, doesn't matter. We all need each other, really. So once we can get past that, then we'll stop trying to save the world and sort of like be part of ourselves. And one of those things is knowing when to say yes and when to say no. And I was talking to my daughter about it in the car today, actually. And I was explaining to her that she's quite young, sort of 14, 15. And I was explaining to her, sort of saying, look, what you don't need to understand is why you are helping them. And I think that is quite difficult for Scorpios, because you need to know why, because you've got that cardinal energy on that sort of like spiritual path of yours. And I sort of say, you don't need to know why you're helping someone. What you need to know is whether I should or should not. And my daughter said, well, you should always help people. And I started saying, yeah, sure. And I gave the idea of, if a drug addict came to you and said, look, can you help me? I need some money to buy some more drugs. Is that a good thing to do? Is that a good thing to help them like that? I don't know. It's a personal sort of thing. But at the same time, it's like, I give that example that I was sitting in my garden and this young lady came around the corner with a blown tire on her car. And she asked me if I could help her change the wheel, and I stood up, and I didn't listen to my mind. I listened to my body. And then my mind gives me the logic of how I apply it in life. But I do reflection within my body, and my body was saying to me, don't help her. And I was kind of going, oh, really? Okay. So I said to her, no, I can't help you. And obviously she's kind of going, what do you mean you can't help me? That's not nice. 2 minutes later, a young man comes around the corner and helps, and she asks him if he can help her with changing the wheel, and he turns around and said, yeah, sure, no worries. And she looked at me and sort of kind of, you old man, you cantankerous old man, didn't want to help me and everything like that. And 2 years down the line, they get married. Now, if I'd said yes, obviously they wouldn't have met, so they would have never got married. So the whole idea of yes and no, as far as I can tell, it's the only thing you really need to know is whether I should say yes or no to the situation. And you do that by feeling your body. You feel, you present the question to your body, and your body will answer you through various sort of sensations and etc. And then it will be applied to your mind, and you say, okay, now how do I apply that logic to it? That's can be difficult for Scorpios. That whole idea there can be really difficult, and I think that has to do with that introspection and checking oneself. You're not. One thing, in my healing sessions, I say to people, you need a big dollop of don't give a shit. And it doesn't mean you don't care about people. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that you can't be responsible for the entire world. And once you realise that, you can only be responsible from your interaction with the world that is around you. I'm a Scorpio. You're not. We feel everything deeply. I think you do feel everything very deeply, yeah. I'm not a Scorpio, no. I'm a Capricorn, but I do know. This is what I was saying earlier on. It's from the exterior, and I think this is where you get with your fixed water and your fixed air around you. I think you feel things incredibly deeply, but it's you don't necessarily show that to the outside world. So people think that you don't feel things deeply, and I don't think that's true at all. Not in the Scorpios I know. I know they feel it very deeply, and but they don't want to show signs of weakness and stuff like that, and that's a bit of a being vulnerable is not necessarily a vulnerability, and it can be sometimes difficult for for Scorpios to do that. But yeah, I think you feel things incredibly deeply. Who's that come from? Marianne Campbell. Yeah, I think you do feel things really deeply. I think they do, and I think it's because it's that cardinal energy. It really strikes at the core of what you believe to be morally correct and etc. Within your life and whatever you're doing. And if people don't respect that, or people don't come at you in this particular way, it's you're going to feel it really, because it's cardinal energy is almost fixed in a way. In the way it's bizarre, I know, but it's almost fixed in the way that it's going off in a direction, sort of scenario. So yeah, I really do believe you sort of like feel things incredibly deeply. Okay, so what else we got? Lisa, how you doing? You got Lisa. What's this? Oi, Lumiere. I can relate to all your comments. All right, yeah, not so. I always question my decision. That's that balancing thing, Lisa. It is. This is why you shouldn't be scared of getting things wrong. Because if you're questioning yourself, you risk to not actually doing something that you might need to do in order to open another door, so you finally get to doing exactly what you want to be doing. And it's like if you've got a boat, a sailing boat, yeah, and you've got the wind that is blowing in this direction. Okay, so the wind is blowing in this direction, so you're blowing wind at me, right? And I want to sail in that direction. I can't sail into the wind. So making a decision about doing things is putting the sails up, and you're going to have to sail by tacking all the way. And the first direction you take may not necessarily be in the direction of the goal of where you want to be, but it's going to get you there, and it starts you moving. Once the boat has got movement under its own sails, then you can find your direction. So yeah, it's questioning things can be quite questioning things can be quite difficult for Scorpios to actually finally get around, finally do things, and it can stop you from doing a lot of things because you're questioning your sort of decision. Who was that from? I've forgotten who that was from. I can't quite see it from here. It's from Lisa, that's right, yeah. So there you go, Lisa. As far as I can tell, it's a little bit like that. And I wouldn't, perfection doesn't exist. It only exists in the moment, the first inhalation and the last exhalation. And that's why it's an exhalation. Exalting your life. And very much agree, Tom. That's good. Lovely to see you. Is that Gray in the experience, Marianne? So yes, everyone must deal with karma. Yeah. The funny thing is deal with karma, and deal with karma. Scorpios are no different in that regard. Yeah, totally. But actually, I'll tell you what, the majority of karmic blocks that I've seen now are not really working anymore. And that's all to do with pole shift. That's all to do with going into a new dimension, new world, that changing world, going into a whole new chapter for the human race, because the karmic thing has really come to come to a halt, and we're here as volunteers, the majority of us. Younger generation people have a fluid sort of karma and stuff like that. I think I talked about that on the last live as well. It is the instant karma's gonna get you with John Lennon, that sort of thing. That is how it really works at the moment. Yes, someone that's out of sync, I think, something like that. Okay, so yeah, um, it starts with me. I'm sorry, I'm reading another one. Funny, I can't. It's too far away. I'm so sorry. My eyes are going. Yes, so we've been going for some time now. I don't want to bore you stupid. We could go into so many discussions. Next week in the weekly, I didn't even mention this. Oh my God, Tanya's really going to give me, get my guts for garters. Um, Next week on the weekly, we're going to be releasing a link on the weekly. Okay, and so we're going to be doing a Zoom live, as it were. It's not going to go live out on YouTube, but we're going to do a Zoom live for 2025 reading for anybody in Scorpio who wants to be part of a 2025 reading for Scorpio, where you can ask questions according to the year and stuff like that, or even ask some questions about yourself and stuff like that. It'll be very much a sort of like a group one-to-one sort of thing where we can actually talk to each other about it. We're going to be releasing a link where you can book up your place, and it comes on a first arrived, first served basis. Sort of, and that link will be in the weekly reading, which comes out Friday this week here. Yeah, if you want to be part of that Zoom collective call where we can chat for ages about 2025 and Scorpios and so forth, make sure you're there for next week's weekly reading and get onto the link as quickly as possible. There's only 20 places because we want to ensure that everybody is allowed to ask questions, and it will be, each question will be each person will be drawn like a lottery in a way, so there's no order to it. It's done, but everyone will get a chance, and we'll all be able to sort of like ask questions and so forth. That will be in the link in the weekly reading next Friday. Okay, so yes, which is going to be on I think it's the 1st of November. Yes. Happy birthday. I didn't even wish happy birthday to everybody having their birthday this week. God, blimey, how rude am I? Do apologise. So yeah, that's the special thing that's coming out next week there. Okay. If you ever need a copy of the Astroflower sort of makeup, you can you'll be able to take screenshots and everything like that. I'll move out of the way there. Take a screenshot of it. We're going to redevelop that as well. I thank you very much, really do. Scorpio, this is where the loyalty and true friendship, true sort of like honest and straight people come out with Scorpio. It's been an amazing journey over the last year and so that I've really clicked with Scorpios, and it's been absolutely brilliant. And we've met some, we meet some great people, and the fantastic people always that are commenting and everything like that. It's absolutely lovely to hear. Really, really beautiful. So yeah, I thank you very much for all of that. Absolute joy, absolute joy. Yeah, so I thank you for all the support you as well you give to here at the Astroflower. Yes. In the meantime, I'll see you on the energy updates. Hope you do enjoy them. I know they're a bit technical and stuff like that. They're a bit on my own bent and stuff like that. I'd like to thank Tanya, who's been commenting on through Cymatic TV, just in case you didn't know. I wouldn't be anywhere without Tanya. She's absolutely amazing. Love her dearly. So, yes, thank you very much, Tanya, for being there. We will be, at one point, in the same room. Life is not a smooth and docile river sometimes, but we will be in the same room sometime in the very near future, and we will be doing lives where we can actually have chats and so forth with you. So yes, thank you. I better wrap up. I'm going to say see you later. Take it easy. Thanking you very much for everyone who's been here, all your comments and everything like that. An absolute blast Really do appreciate it. I will see you soon. In the meantime, don't forget, life should be fun, so please do enjoy.